Good morning. Here's late news from the Channel 12 Newsroom. Artificial heart recipient William Schrader is saying goodbye to the hospital today. He's leaving the Humana Heart Institute in Louisville, Kentucky, for a specially equipped apartment nearby. He spent a month in the apartment previously before a stroke forced him back into the hospital in May. Air traffic is being tangled up in 10 airports in western Mexico. That's because air traffic controllers in the Pacific Coast city of Mazatlan are on strike. The controllers say they haven't received pay raises they were promised in June and claim they haven't received a raise in 5 years. At least 17 people were hurt when a bus full of American tourists hit a passenger car and smacked into a brick wall in Vancouver, BC. Officials say the 46 Americans aboard the bus had just finished a trip to Alaska and were headed to the Vancouver airport for flights home. What was Typhoon Kit has weakened and become a tropical depression, but it had enough power to kill 5 people in South Korea and leave another 5 missing and feared dead. The storm dumped 10 inches of rain across South Korea, forcing hundreds from their homes and causing an estimated $650,000 worth of damage. The Reagan administration has reportedly warned South Africa that the president would not be able to sustain a veto of economic sanctions against the countries unless efforts aimed at ending apartheid are speeded up. Sunday's Washington Post quotes an administration official as saying the warning was made during meetings with South African officials in Vienna this week. Congress is due to take final action on a sanctions bill next month. Meanwhile, in South Africa, the Cape Town area was shaken by a grenade that exploded among police who were charging mourners at a funeral Saturday. 6 officers and a CBS technician were injured, none seriously. Actor Paul Newman and playwright Arthur Miller are among a group of prominent people expected to join dozens of protesters in Washington Monday. They'll stage a symbolic funeral procession to commemorate South Africans who've been killed since a state of emergency was imposed 3 weeks ago. The marchers will also protest the Reagan administration's failure to take tougher measures against apartheid. 8 police officers in Northern Ireland were injured when Roman Catholic youths went on a rampage Saturday. The violence flared before and after thousands of Protestants marched to commemorate a 296-year-old Protestant victory over Catholics. 5 people were arrested. In Lebanon, Muslim leader Nabi Berri has issued his strongest call yet for the ouster of that country's president. Berri says unless the governments of Amin Gemayel dies, all of Lebanon will. Berri commented Saturday just hours after rockets hit Gemayel's presidential palace. Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince Abdullah has reportedly warned that Arab disunity could further divide the region into U.S. and Soviet spheres of influence. The Saudi news agency commenting on that statement said the just-ended Arab League summit in Morocco had urged leaders to form a unified stand and present it to President Reagan and Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev sometime soon. Officials in Springfield, Missouri say about 1,000 residents were forced to evacuate their homes for 6 hours Saturday after poisonous chlorine gas leaked from an electronics plant. The plant spokesman says about 50 workers were sent home following the leak and the plant's shutdown. No injuries reported. An estimated 6,000 or 18,000 people showed up at Saturday's 3rd annual Teddy Bear Rally in Amherst, Massachusetts. Children and adults registered their bears in 10 contest categories, ranging from cuddliest bear to the farthest traveled bear. The money raised by the rally will benefit retarded citizens. The event organizer says last year's rally earned $3,000. President Reagan is paying tribute to Japan's comeback from its bombed-out ruins of World War II. In his weekly radio address, Reagan called Japan one of America's most important allies and partners with the U.S. in peace and enterprise. This week marks the 40th anniversary of the U.S. victory over Japan in World War II. Florida Governor Bob Graham says he's very pleased the Justice Department has decided to continue taking custody of refugees released from state jails. Graham threatened to file suit to prevent the release of the Cubans after the department announced that it would no longer detain inmates awaiting deportation to Cuba. Senator Paula Hawkins of Florida says the Immigration Service plans to keep its original policy, at least temporarily. Hawkins says the The policy will come under review again on Monday. A Gallup poll out yesterday shows Americans giving high marks to the neighborhood public schools their children attend. The 17th annual poll reveals a continuing rebound in public confidence since educators began responding to calls for tighter standards over the past few years. Talks have resumed between Hormel Company officials and a meat packers union representing more than 1,500 workers in Austin, Minnesota, hours after a 3-year contract expired. However, a company official says the two sides appear to be deadlocked. The Hormel officials say the local union is seeking a minimum of $12 an hour, but the company is not willing to go higher than 10. It'll be 8 years on Friday since the king of rock and roll died, but he's far from forgotten in Memphis, Tennessee. Thousands of Elvis Presley fans are expected to dance into town to stand in line to tour Graceland, the white column house Presley once called home. There'll be everything from Elvis coffee mugs to Elvis slippers on sale, and the winner of an Elvis trivia contest will get a $2,500 Elvis Presley doll decked out in a diamond belt. Authorities say an argument over a pack of cigarettes has led to the death of a Philadelphia subway rider. Police say a Philadelphia man is facing murder charges for allegedly stabbing another rider in the chest. A detective says the fight centered on a pack of cigarettes, but gave no other details. But he says the killing was racially motivated. Going on to college is getting more expensive. The College Board reports the average cost of a year in college will rise 7% for the 1985-86 school year. The price includes tuition and fees, books and supplies, room and board, personal expenses and transportation. And according to the College Board's annual survey, the most expensive college in the nation will be Bennington College in Vermont. A year there would set you back $17,210. A firebomb has damaged an abortion clinic in Toledo, Ohio, and a total of 76 anti-abortion demonstrators have been arrested in Toledo, Philadelphia, and Manchester, Missouri. No one was hurt in the Toledo blaze, and the clinic opened for business later in the day. Fire officials say there have been no arrests in connection with the fire bombing. It may take survivors of the Delta Airlines crash years to completely recover. 12 of the 31 survivors are still in the hospital. Doctors say at least 4 of them have burns that are so severe they may require a lifetime of skin grafts. Other survivors are expected to need months of physical therapy. Head of Greenpeace International says he's conducting his own investigation into the bombing of the Greenpeace ship Rainbow Warrior in New Zealand. David McTaggart says he has proof linking the French spy agency to 3 mercenaries who he says carried out the bombing which killed a Greenpeace photographer. The vessel exploded and sank in Auckland Harbor July 10th. Radio France says a French couple arrested by police in New Zealand were secret agents sent to spy on the ship but had nothing to do with the bombing. Closer to home, a spokesman for the Washington State Lottery says 2 people picked all 6 winning numbers to split the jackpot in the weekly lotto game. Dick Paulson said last night that the latest winners each are entitled to annual payments of $30,315, counting a 20% withholding tax deduction for 10 years. The Green River Task Force is asking for an extra $500,000 in federal money to improve the capabilities of its computer system as it wrestles with reams of investigative information. Last year, King County thought it could set up its text management computer system with $200,000, which it got from the state. A young couple visiting friends in Marsing, Idaho, before moving to Tacoma, died in a house fire early Saturday. 6 others, including Chuck and Donna Jacoby's daughter, and 2 other small children, escaped. Jacoby was discharged Monday from the U.S. Army at Fort Knox, Kentucky, and was moving his family back home to Tacoma. A former Washington State Patrol commercial enforcement officer convicted of accepting money from truck drivers for ignoring safety violations has been sentenced to a day in jail. Superior Court Judge George Shields sentenced 25-year-old Paulo Poydras, saying Poydras was a first-time offender who could be sentenced to less than the 12 to 14 months he originally faced on the conviction for 1 count of bribery. At least 17 people were injured when a busload of American tourists collided with a passenger car and veered into a brick wall alongside a busy Vancouver street. There were 46 Americans aboard the International Stage Line bus in BC. Electric rates could jump by 17% and sewer rates by 22% next year for Seattle residents. The rate hike proposals that were submitted by the city utility departments could add more than $50 annually to average electric bills and more than $20 annually to average sewer bills. A veteran Puget Sound ship pilot says he did nothing wrong when he left the bridge of a freighter in the Tacoma Harbor. Captain R.S. Peak says he did leave a pilot apprentice, Bill Bundren, in the bridge and on the bridge of the SS Great Land on May 22nd. State Board of Pilotage Commissioners is investigating a complaint by officials of Totem Ocean Trader Express, owner of the 791-foot ship, who says Peak's action caused a near collision between the vessel and a tug barge combination. Tacoma comedian Earl Birch, the last American to leave South Vietnam after that country fell to the communists in 1975, will compete in the finals of the Great Southeast Laugh-Off in Atlanta, Georgia. The field of 100 comedians has been narrowed to 4 finalists who will compete Tuesday night at the Punchline Comedy Club for $3,000 in cash and prizes. An all-white jury of 7 women and 5 men has been chosen to hear the aggravated first-degree murder trial of Charles Harris in Seattle. The 36-year-old Bellevue man who was black is charged with the shooting deaths of Brenda James, his white fiancée, and another woman last January at a home in the suburbs east of the city. And for years, Willard Johnson has been sending samples from the Kangley water supply to Washington state officials without any problem. But this year, too much bacteria was found in the April sample, and the June sample contained so much debris that laboratory technicians couldn't get a bacteria count. Water comes from an unnamed stream that flows through the old South King County coal mining community, and state water quality expert John Aden says it looks like what he calls a problem system. President of New Win Incorporated says the airline will start passenger service August 17th with one-way fares for $99 between Anchorage, Alaska and Seattle. In BC news, the Supreme Court has granted a weekend injunction against the Canadian Forest Service to delay testing of garland, a chemical used to remove underbrush in production forest areas. A 14-year-old boy charged with second-degree murder has been remanded to September 4th for a pre-sentence report. The youth, whose name cannot be released because he's a juvenile, has pleaded guilty in young offenders court in Vernon to a reduced charge of manslaughter in the strangulation death of 29-month-old Sean Thomas. And a bizarre accident in South Vancouver Saturday sent 17 people to the hospital, 2 of them in serious condition. Police say a car spun out of control, rammed another vehicle before smashing into the front of a bus loaded with American tourists. Wheelchair athlete Rick Hansen has passed the 9,000-kilometer mark of his around-the-world marathon. His arrival in Hamburg, West Germany, puts the 27-year-old Vancouver resident about 1/4 of the way into his 40,000-kilometer journey to raise money for spinal cord research. Steve Fogno is making plans for his future. The 20-year-old one-legged Vernon runner, who achieved world acclaim for his cross-Canada run for cancer research, will use a $20,000 BC government scholarship to pursue his dream of becoming a commercial helicopter pilot. Sports news, Dave Kingman's 400th career homer sparked the Oakland A's to an 11-5 win over the Seattle Mariners last night. Andre Dawson had 2 home runs to lead the Montreal Expos to a 7-5 win over the Pittsburgh Pirates. Randy St. Clair got the win. He's 4-2. In Kansas City, Jim Sundberg homered in the 10th inning to lift the Royals to a 4-3 victory over the Toronto Blue Jays. Craig Ellis caught 2 touchdown passes to lead the Saskatchewan Roughriders to a 33-29 CFL win over the Hamilton Tiger Cats. Saskatchewan is 3-2. Hubert Green has a 3-stroke lead over defending champ Lee Trevina going into the final round of the PGA Championship in Denver. Nancy Lopez holds down top spot after 3 rounds of an LPGA tournament in High Point, North Carolina. And Chris Everett Lloyd beat Hannah Mandlikova of Czechoslovakia to move into the final rounds of the Players' Challenge tennis tournament in Toronto. Quickly, let's check the marine forecast. Small craft warnings for heavy swells are up for Cape Flattery to the mouth of the Columbia. Swells will be northwesterly 6 to 9 feet, subsiding to 4 to 7 feet Sunday night. Strait of Juan de Fuca, small craft warnings up for winds westerly to 20 knots. Inland waters, winds variable to 15 knots. Our general forecast calls for unseasonably dry temperatures through Wednesday. Chance of showers and cooler by Thursday, but our highs will be between 70 and 80 today. I'm Les Cole. You have a very pleasant day. Good morning.
You are watching KVOS TV, located in Bellingham, Washington. KVOS TV is owned by Ackerley Communications Incorporated. Our studios and main offices are located at 1151 Ellis Street, Bellingham, Washington, 98225. Our transmitter stands atop Mount Constitution on Orcas Island near East Sound, Washington. Our programs are designed for audiences in both Northwest Washington and British Columbia. Some of the programs came to you by delayed broadcast. We wish you all a good night and a good morning. KVOS now concludes its programming day.